James Garner confessed it all in the note he left behind to Doris Day. James Garner was born James Scott Bumgar on April 7, 1928 in Norman, Oklahoma. Garner's early life was marked by hardship, resilience, and an uncommon sense of self-reliance. The death of his mother when he was just 5 years old and a difficult relationship with his stepmother forced him to grow up quickly, shaping the empathy and emotional depth that would later define his best performances. Before Hollywood ever came calling, Garner lived many lives. He worked a variety of blue-collar jobs, played football briefly, and served in the U.S. Army during the Korean War, where he was wounded twice and awarded the Purple Heart. These experiences grounded him, giving him a lifelong distrust of pretension and a deep respect for everyday people, qualities that audiences instinctively recognized and trusted when he appeared on screen. Garner's rise to stardom was anything but conventional. He entered acting almost by accident in the early 1950s, studying briefly at the prestigious actor studio in New York. Unlike many of his contemporaries, he never adopted an exaggerated movie star persona. Instead, he cultivated a naturalistic style, underplayed, conversational, and emotionally honest that felt revolutionary at the time. This approach paid off spectacularly in 1957 when he was cast as Brett Maverick in the television western Maverick. The role turned Garner into a household name. As the charming, witty, and slightly reluctant gunslinger, he subverted traditional western tropes, bringing humor, irony, and intelligence to a genre dominated by stoic heroes. Maverick did more than make Garner famous. It established the blueprint for his career. Again and again, he portrayed men who were smart rather than flashy, moral without being sanctimonious, and strong without needing to prove it. Whether playing a brave detective, a soldier, a romantic lead, or an aging cowboy, Garner always conveyed decency and quiet strength. His transition from television to film was seamless. In movies like The Great Escape, 1963, The Americanization of Emily, 1964, Grand Prix, 1966, and Support Your Local Sheriff, 1969, he demonstrated remarkable versatility, balancing drama, comedy, and action with ease. One of Garner's defining traits was his refusal to be bullied by the studio system. At a time when actors were often powerless, he took on major studios and lawsuits over unfair contracts and won. His legal battles against Warner Brothers and later Universal made him a quiet pioneer for performers' rights, earning him respect throughout the industry. Garner never sought the role of activist, but his willingness to stand up for fairness reflected the same integrity that shaped his personal and professional life. In 1974, Garner returned triumphantly to television with The Rockford Files, creating one of the most iconic characters in TV history, Private Investigator Jim Rockford. Unlike the slick detectives of the era, Rockford was perpetually broke, physically battered, and emotionally guarded, yet endlessly likable. Garner infused the role with humor, vulnerability, and humanity, earning an Emmy Award and cementing his legacy as a master of the small screen. The show's success endured for decades, influencing countless crime dramas that followed. Even as he aged, Garner's star never dimmed. He embraced mature roles with grace, delivering deeply moving performances in films such as Murphy's Romance, 1985, which earned him an Academy Award nomination, and Space Cowboys 2000. Perhaps most poignantly, he portrayed the older Noah Calhoun in The Notebook, 2004, offering a tender, dignified portrayal of enduring love that introduced him an entirely new generation of fans. James Garner's love story was a unconventional, candid, and enduring as the man himself. A rare Hollywood romance that defied the odds and quietly stood the test of time. Garner was married only once to Lois Josephine Fletchman Clark, a woman who would become not just his wife, but the steady emotional anchor of his life for nearly 6 decades. The two met at a party in 1956, and what followed was nothing short of a whirlwind. In an era when celebrities often dated endlessly before committing, Garner trusted his instincts completely. Just 16 days after they met, on August 17, 1956, James Garner and Lois Clark were married. A decision that raised eyebrows, but ultimately proved to be one of the most enduring unions in Hollywood history. Garner later spoke about that headlong rush into love with his trademark honesty and humor. "We went to dinner every night for 14 nights, he once recalled. I was just absolutely nuts about her. The newlyweds' honeymoon was modest by any standard, especially for a man who would go on to become a major television and film star. Garner famously joked that Hess spent just $77 on the trip, and that it nearly broke him. Yet that frugality paired with genuine affection and mutual respect foreshadowed the grounded real-world nature of their marriage. Fame, wealth, and Hollywood excess never defined their relationship. Commitment did. Garner often spoke about marriage with a mix of wit and hard-earned wisdom. Comparing it to military service, he once quipped, "Marriage is like the army. Everyone complains, but you'd be surprised at the large number of people who re-enlist." Behind the humor was a deeper truth. Garner understood that long marriages are not built on perfection, but on perseverance. His remarks reflected a man who had lived through the ups and downs of partnership and still believed deeply in the institution. 80 the time of their marriage, Lois Clark brought with her a young daughter from a previous marriage. Her 9-year-old child was recovering from polio, a serious and life-altering illness in the 1950s. Garner did not hesitate to step into the role of a devoted father figure, embracing both Lois and her daughter as a ready-made family. This early act of responsibility and compassion spoke volumes about Garner's character, revealing a man whose private life reflected the integrity audiences sensed on screen. In 1958, James and Lois welcomed their only child together, a daughter named Greta, born on January 4th. Affectionately nicknamed She became the center of their family life. Despite Garner's demanding career and frequent travel, he remained deeply devoted to his role as a husband and father, often choosing family over professional opportunities when possible. While Hollywood marriages famously crumble under pressure, the Garners worked quietly to protect their home life from the glare of fame. Their marriage was not without challenges. Over the years, James and Lois experienced 2 periods of separation, one lasting 3 months in 1970 and another beginning in 1979, that, unlike many celebrity splits that end in permanent estrangement, these separations ultimately underscored the depth of their bond rather than its weakness. After time apart and careful reflection, the couple reunited in September 1981, choosing once again to commit to one another. Their reconciliation was not a dramatic public spectacle, but private decision rooted in love, loyalty, and shared history. Remarkably, James Garner and Lois Clark remained married until his death in 2014, in an industry notorious for fleeting romances and broken vows. Their nearly 58-year marriage stood as a quiet testament to endurance, forgiveness, and genuine partnership. Lois, who practiced Judaism, and Garner, who respected her faith, navigated cultural and personal differences with mutual understanding. Another layer off to a relationship that reflected respect rather than compromise. The quiet twilight of his life. James Garner, one of Hollywood's most beloved leading men, found himself looking backward more than forward. Fame had given him everything the world said a man could want: success, admiration, longevity, and respect. Yet, when he sat down to write a final note to Doris Day, his longtime friend and fellow icon, what poured out was not pride, but honesty. It was a confession stripped of Hollywood polish, written by a man who had finally made peace with who he was and who he had been. "I never said enough when it mattered," Garner admitted. "We spent our lives smiling for cameras, being brave for everyone else, but rarely honest about the weight we carried." His words were not dramatic. They were plain spoken, just like him. Garner had always resisted the trappings of celebrity, often calling himself an accidental movie star. In the note, he confessed that his easygoing image had been a shield. "People thought I was relaxed, unbothered," he wrote. "Truth is, I worried all the time about work, about money, about whether I deserved any off it." To Doris Day, who had endured her own private heartbreaks behind a sunny public persona, Garner spoke with rare vulnerability. "You understood better than anyone how lonely it can be to be adored," he confessed. He reflected on how Hollywood demanded perfection while offering very little grace. Contracts were ruthless. Studios were controlling, and the pressure to remain likable never faded. "I fought them when I could," he wrote, referencing his famous battles with studios for fair treatment. "But even when I won, I felt tired." Fighting shouldn't have to be the price of dignity. Garner also confronted his regrets. He spoke about missed roles, strained relationships, and the emotional cost of always being the good guy. I wish I'd been softer with myself, he admitted. I wish I hadn't mistaken endurance for strength. His note acknowledged the toll that injuries and chronic pain had taken on his spirit. There were days I smiled through pain so bad it scared me, he wrote. I didn't want to disappoint anyone, fans, producers, even strangers. Most poignantly, Garner wrote about friendship. His bond with Doris there represented something rare in Hollywood. Trust without expectation. You never asked me to be anything other than Jim, he wrote. No charm, no leans, no act. He thanked her for showing him that kindness could survive fame. You proved that decency wasn't a weakness in this business. It was an act of rebellion. As the note neared its end, Garner turned reflective. Even tender that this is the last thing I leave behind, he wrote. I want it to be the truth. He spoke of gratitude for his wife, his family, and the fans who stayed with him across decades. Yet, he refused to romanticize his life. It wasn't perfect. I wasn't perfect, but itchy to be fair, and I tried to be real. His final words to Doris Day were simple, but devastating in their clarity. If I've learned anything, Garner wrote, it's that being kind lasts longer than being famous. Wheat lived the noise. Doris. Maybe that was the point all along. The note was not a farewell, steeped in sorrow, but a quiet release. In confessing it all, James Garner did what he had done best throughout his career. He told the truth without spectacle, and in doing so, held behind something far more enduring than stardom. A reminder that even the most admired lives are made meaningful not by applause, but by honesty, humility, and the courage to finally speak from the heart. James Garner and Doris Day were beloved Hollywood stars who shared a warm, decadescent-long friendship and starred together in two romantic comedies in 1963, The Thrill of It All and Move Over Darling, playing married couples and clicking instantly due to their down-to-earth Midwestern personalities. James Garner's later years were marked not only by his enduring fame, but by a long, often painful battle with serious health challenges that tested his famously tough spirit.